Hello everybody, welcome to another video on the 67 Mustang. So originally I had intended to make this video part of the last video I did with the unboxing of the instrument cluster and blower motor, but it was just turning out that it was going to be too long, so I've split these up. So in this one we're going to actually get into rewiring the instrument cluster with the new American Autowire harness came with it. So we're going to go ahead and pick up with that. So we'll be first looking at the original harness and then getting into the American Autowire harness. So with that, hope you enjoy it, and here we go. Okay, so I've got the wire harness brought over here. Now this is our original harness that we pulled out. So you can see it's got all of the light connectors on here. It's got the gauge connectors on here. Everything's nice plug and play. We've got some blade connectors here. I've got a wire wrap here, which I have more of those. So this is what we started with off the car. Nice, wonderful, easy plug and play. This is what's in the American Autowire kit, with 2 bags of connectors. So in here we have all the little light duwachis, little light sockets. In there, the little connectors that go into the light sockets themselves. Springs, so we even have to build the little light sockets on this. So to say this is going to be easy is probably a gross misstatement. This should be very challenging, to say the least, and especially for someone who is not an electrical guru. Yes, I built computers. There's a lot of wiring that goes into a computer, but most all of those already have connections on the ends of them. They're already terminated with something. I've put up new ceiling fans and lights, and yes, those aren't terminated, but they're pretty straightforward. Connect the positive wire, connect the ground, connect the neutral, and you're done. I'm not so sure about this. It's a little daunting. Now, the instructions. Take the old wire harness guy away. Here are instructions that tell you how to do this. I don't know how good these really are, but I guess I'm going to find out because I gotta do it. I've got to do it. So, I guess we're going to get to looking at some of this, figure out what we've got to do, and if this stuff needs to be soldered, which if it does, I don't know that I have solder. I did not get as prepared for this as I thought I was. Now, there's also some, looks like some instructions in these little bags. So I'm going to open these bags. Now, there are a lot of little pieces in here, so if you're doing this yourself, be careful. Make sure you don't lose any little pieces. Okay, so there's one of the light sockets. See there, I don't know if you can see down in there, but there's just a straight hole through the back on there. They do look very similar to one of the original sockets. And there. Slide that to the side. What I want to do is pull out this paper that's in here. That's an annoyingly loud airplane. Sorry about that. Okay, so no instructions on this. Now, I thought there might be because on the ignition switch, the actual paper that was in the bag with the ignition switch had instructions. So this doesn't have any sort of instructions. there are, one thing I am looking at, two types of light sockets. You have a B, which appears to be what these are. And then we have a C, which is what this one is. There appears to be two type C sockets and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 type C sockets. If that is correct. Yep. And then we've got 15 of these, they're calling them rivet terminals. These are what actually go inside of here and that the wire connects to and that the bulb makes contact with. And these go into all of the light sockets, doesn't matter whether it's a B or a C. Then we have springs that go into the type C. So what I can tell is we're going to run a wire from this group through the socket and then attach one of these bullet connectors to it and crimp it down if we can get that to go. So I'm going to go try to get that done. And get this part, get these lights on there, which I think is the first step. So, anyway, I'm going to get started on that. Once I figure out how it works and all, I'll come back and record it and show y'all how it's done. So, go ahead and start playing. I think I'm going to go ahead and need a few extra tools to do that. So that's where we'll start. I'll go get my crimpers, some nips, and we'll see. Okay. Okay, so I have gone through, kind of untangled, unrolled that one of the wire harnesses or whatnot. And it actually turns out each connector that was in there, and there are 3 connectors, is a separate harness, for lack of a better term. So this one here that has kind of the what I call neon colors of purple and pink and yellow and whatnot in it, this appears to be for using modern gauges. So if you have an electronic speedometer and that kind of thing, then you would need to use this or VSS, which I don't really know what that is, honestly, system. You would use this. I don't have any of that. I'm using standard gauges, so I'm not going to worry about that for right now. So put that one aside. This other one that has a big block connector on it goes to, looks like the left turn signal, the gas gauge, and more gas gauge. So it's 2 gas gauge wires, high beam indicator, oil pressure sender, and all that. Okay, so this is all good for that. That's not the lights that I'm working on now. This one that has this thin connector with 3 wires going in it, this seems to be the harness that goes with the lights. And you can see it has a lot of wire for it. Judging by the instructions here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 1 you're supposed to actually cut this wire and splice things together, and I'll leave these pieces down here so I can get to these instructions. As you can see right here. So I'm going to have to, looks like I'm going to be cutting some of this off and putting things together, I believe. What it looks like. So anyway, again, making a little progress figuring things out. So we're going to keep on going. Something else I just figured out as I'm looking at this instructions, it appears that these right here, these class C sockets are only used if you have a tack and you have a generator light and an oil pressure light as opposed to a gauge. I have a gauge, so that's going to be a little different, and there's actually different instructions. Now keep in mind, said that this kit doesn't support an ammeter, but I got the new voltmeter, so that I've got to figure out where that plugs into, which it should tell me somewhere in here. But anyway, so that, yep. Okay, again, this is all going to be fun. So let me see if I can get the first one of the other types together and go from there. By the way, the tools I've got, just so I don't know which ones I'm going to use yet, so I've got a nice pair of wire strippers that allow you to really control the length on what you strip the insulation off of, a pair of needle nose pliers with some cutters in it, 2 different pairs of nips. I need to get some new ones because these are old and don't work. Anyway, some traditional wire strippers and crimpers. I've got my voltmeter here to make sure I've got good solid connections. And then I mentioned in the unboxing that this uses different types of connectors, double barrel connectors, so you need a special crimper. So this is the crimping tool that I've got that does open barrel terminal connections. It's ratcheting, so I can control how much I do. Also has tips for different sizes. So hopefully this will work well for us. So we'll see now, because I've never really used it. Okay, another quick tidbit as I'm working through this. So I was looking at my original harness down here at all the various light sockets, and I was pushing the wires up through to see how they were connected, right? And each one of these has a spring in it. I'm like, well, hold on. According to the instructions, the only one that should have a spring on it is the type C connector here, which I don't think I'll be using because of the fact I have gauges and not dummy lights. And I only have 3 springs in the kit. So what gives? Why does my original one have springs and the new one wasn't? What I found if you can see down in there, I'm not sure if you can get into that or if I'll be able to zoom into that or not, but you'll see a white plastic thing inset in here. And I found when I was pressing on it with a pair of needle nose, it is spring loaded. So it does have a spring in the socket. It's just built in. It's not part of the wire. So that explains that thing. So it's good to know. At least I thought it was good to know. So I wanted to share that with y'all in case you have questions while you're doing this. So we'll keep on going now. think that is a good connection. Good crimp, what do you think? We'll now test it. Okay. So in theory, here, if I do just to good. So what I'm doing now is testing the connectivity. Make sure I have a connection from this what I just put on and this connector on the plug right here. And the fact it's making noise tells me I've got solid connection. There's some numbers on there. I don't know what they mean. I'm sure somebody does, but I don't. So this part now feeds down into there. So anything is okay. We got one done. Woohoo! Okay, so to walk you through the process, what it did, you pass the wire through the socket like so. You cut off one of these little, what do they call this, rivet terminals off here. You then cut your wire, and it's pretty short. So what I've been doing is just kind of laying the wire up in there, and you want that crimp that is, or the tabs that you crimp to the wire, basically you want it so they're right at the edge of the insulation, right? So from what I can tell based on the directions and what I looked at on the original wire harness. Right, so once you get that done, then you're going to put this into your special crimper, and I think I was using this one here that is 14. It's marked as 14 on this tool, so that this presses down on the solid part and the open part gets forced into the groove down here that causes it to roll up and connect. Okay. Now, if you really wanted to be anal about it, I guess, if you want to turn it, you could go in and put some solder in on there. But this, by using these barrel connectors, it's pretty on there pretty good. So there you go. You're done, and now you got to do the rest of these. So what I'm going to do is keep going on this. So next I'm going to figure out where I want this on that instrument panel, then figure out length of wire to get to kind of a central point where I can bring all of these together and cut the wire and then go to the next one. Okay, so I'll do that, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording until I get it all done. So, which maybe tomorrow, I don't know. Okay, so we've made some good progress so far. I've got all of the light sockets now connected into the harness. Now, a couple of things. First, I goofed because I was supposed to put the shrink wrap over here to cover that up, and now I've soldered everything together, so I don't know that I can get that around that. So that's what they make electrical tape for. So that was the first gotcha that I have goofed up on. That's that. Next, where are they? Okay, so in other videos that have installed this harness, they say to practice in the crimping, because this crimper, where's the crimper? Crimper's underneath here. Okay. The crimper, these barrel crimpers are very finicky about how they work, and it's very easy to screw it up. So I did go through 3 of these stud, what do they call these, rivet connectors, messing things up. So what I found, let's see if I can get it here, is that I'm going to take one of the messed up ones anyway. So first off, as I mentioned, these are the 14s in here. So what I was doing, and again, I'm not sure, is you put it with the open side into the valley, I guess, for lack of a better term, right? And then you sit it in there, and then you can crimp down, at least partially, don't know what that beeping was, at least partially on to get it in place. Then I'd slide the wire in the back. Now what I found with these is you don't push it all the way. So this has a little head on it. Again, I'm not sure if you can see that, but you don't push that all the way down. You go into where you see a little part that comes up. It's a little part that comes up there into where that elbow is. That's far enough. Then you slide the wire in, and you look and you make sure the wire is coming through, making connection, and then you crimp. And it works just fine. And after I figured that out, I didn't booger up anymore. So, yay. And I still have a few left. Now, they do give you a couple of extra, not a whole lot, so just be careful when you're doing that because you can mess it up. So, just wanted to share that with you. We've got to this point here. So, next I'm going to go ahead and wrap this in electrical tape, and then I'm going to go through and put some wire ties on some of these. So, we'll go ahead and do that. And I don't know what the beeping is. But anyway, we'll keep on moving. Okay, everybody, so I think we're going to probably wrap the video up here. I've got all the light sockets wired in. So I've got the lights that go to illuminate the instrument cluster. They're all in. You can see them here, and they're all onto this connector on the harness. Then I've also got the right and left turn signal indicators wired in and the brake warning light wired in here, and that goes to this connector. So what I've got next to do is get the instruments back in and wired up, and I'll probably do that as a separate video, but I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. So just so you can see a couple other things while I'm here. So in this connector here, you've also got the brown wire which goes to the constant power relay right here. I actually used, they wanted me to use one of these connectors here. It seemed a little big for one wire, so I actually pulled out, I've got another kit, I think I showed you when I did the unboxing, that had a bunch of extra connectors in it. Actually found one in there that worked really well to go on and slide on to here that holds one wire. It's very much better, I think, than this one. I think this one would have been too loose. Also on the ground, so the black wire here is a ground that goes here to the back of where the speedometer cable is. They wanted you to use, well, this, one of these cheap crimped connectors, which it probably would have worked fine. Again, I went over to my extra connectors that I bought, found a better one that is a barrel crimp instead of these cheap, cheap type of connectors which you can pick up at any auto parts store here. Put it on and it's good and solid, and I like that much better, so I did that. So now we got everything, all the lights wired in. I've checked all my connections. I'm getting good signal through throughout everything, so I'm pretty happy. I've been trying to do a little bit better cable management. Once I get everything done, I'll tidy this up a little bit more. But there you have it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned a thing or two about the process of wiring the instrument cluster in with the American Autowire harness. It's not been as bad as I thought it was going to be when I first started earlier today. It's actually pretty straightforward. Again, a couple of things. Make sure you practice. You definitely want to get one of these barrel style crimpers. Try to do it with one of these traditional crimpers doesn't work well. So this has been a godsend. It's not cheap. This one is 65, 70 bucks. They can run upwards of 100. I had one that I got when I got the wire harness. It was close to 100 bucks. That came from American Autowire. I don't know where I put it. The other thing is wire strippers. This style where it grabs the wire and then pulls through, I found has worked much better than, again, using more of a traditional wire stripper, or nips or a knife or whatever, and really control the length, and that's critical with this system. So anyway, okay, I know I started to sign off. I get distracted. Squirrel, man, can you do? So anyway, with that, again, hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'm going to start working on the gauges, and I'll see y'all in the next video. See ya. Okay, so maybe that's not the end of the video. I went ahead and I got the instrument cluster completely wired. It probably doesn't look as pretty as one would hope, but a couple of things I did figure out. So first off, the harnesses or connectors, whatever you want to call them, come with a lot more wire than you need. And some of it you're going to have to cut to facilitate some, well, for lack of a better term, daisy chaining. So for example, you have to go from this terminal over here on what I believe is the temperature gauge. Then you have one loop that runs down here to the oil pressure sensor, right? And then that loops back through all this mess here to over here at the fuel gauge. And then that has another wire that goes and connects up here to the constant or consistent constant power relay right here. So that's several wires. They wanted you to use one of they actually have some big connectors like this right here, which are supposed to hold 2 wires. I couldn't get my crimper, I couldn't figure out how to make it work. It was too big. So I used individual connectors. So it's individual wire that goes from here to here, and then another one that goes from here over to here, and then another one goes from here over to here. So if you're better at wiring than I am, you probably could have done a better job than that. Let's see, other things. So this is something else that was a little bit tricky, and I'm hoping I have this wired right. But because I now have a voltmeter replacing my ammeter. Now keep in mind with this particular harness, if you still have your old ammeter, it does not work. You will not connect it up in this harness. As I said in the other videos, have a voltmeter now that will give me voltage. So that requires to have a constant 12 volt power supply, and that's what this pink wire is. And so it goes up here when you turn the ignition, 12 volts, right, comes through, it hits here, and it goes here. This is the brake warning light, so that comes on when to remind you to check your brake or whatever. Again, that's on the 67. It's different place than the 68. But you got 2 things with that. So you get the power for the light, and then you've got a wire that actually goes to this harness that I guess is what comes on with the switch. Anyway, I don't quite know how it works, but and it's got 2 connectors going in there. But the point is, I had to splice the wires for the voltmeter into the brake light into this pink wire that just slips into here. Okay, so that was done. And it's got a connector on here because I connected to the wrong wire. This wire and this wire, which actually runs to this wire that actually runs to the fuel gauge, same color. I got them confused. I read it the wrong one, so I had to clip and splice. It happens, whatever. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh yeah, we got it ground too. So with the voltmeter, you actually have to run a ground connection, which has got to run over here. So you can see this light brown wire because I didn't have any good black wire runs, loops around, and comes into here. This is the ground, which is also what this grounds to, here to this connector, which then I guess grounds to somewhere else in the harness as well to complete the ground of the body and chassis and whatnot. Let's see, is there anything else here that I did differently than what they did? Oh, yeah, I used more of the good connectors that came out of my extra connector kit that I bought instead of the cheap ones, the cheap blue crimpy ones to get there. Now, I haven't bolted all of this down because I'm waiting on more of these blue globes to show up, which I've ordered from CJ Pony Parts. These are just toast. They're all bubbly, crispy. So I haven't done that. They're just resting in there. Once I get those, and I can, because to get to some of these, like down in here, you got to pull the gauge out anyway. But I got it in here. I even repainted the needle on the speedometer right there. I don't know if you can see that, but I did. It was very faded out. Tried to match the color of the other ones, which is in good shape. But anyway, there we go. I have now officially rewired the whole instrument cluster. So yay, very excited. Got to use a bunch of all my tools, my crimper, my stripper, wire stripper. Even used my soldering iron. A couple of connections I was kind of iffy about, so I just slapped some solder in there. So it's been a long time since I've done any soldering. Actually, I've done that with some gas pipe, having to pipe in a gas hot water heater at my parents' house. Had to sweat and solder the joints there. So, but anyway, so with that, this truly is the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it, learned a lot, picked up some tips and tricks on how to do this kind of work. It's not been as bad as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, you got to have the right tools. Also, make sure you have a good supply of wire ties, cable ties, whatever you want to call them. Just to keep things nice and neat and orderly. But with that, guys, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Tell me why. Tell me if I did anything wrong. Tell me. I'm here to learn. I'm certainly, when it comes to this kind of stuff, a very big rookie. But please subscribe to the channel. We're not too far from 100 subscribers, or 40 something, which is low, but anyway, would love to get some more. So with that, guys, y'all have a good one, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks.